Hey, what's up, guys? Coach Daniel here for Mindset Monday, episode 4. It's been a few weeks. I haven't quit or anything. Bear with me. I'm just trying to figure out the best way to organize these messages, and I take on all kinds of information myself, and it's stuff that I have either learned or I'm learning, but before I get it out, I want to make sure that it's something I can stand behind and believe, and it's something I've already applied to my life before. So like last week I can learn a bunch of things, but I don't want to get that out yet if I haven't applied it, right? So just know that I'm no expert. It's all stuff I learn, and I just want to start a conversation about how to change your mindset with things and how to make our lives better. And this whole personal development journey started for me about a year and a half ago in the same kind of way, where I just saw a video and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Never even thought about that. And then that led into another thing and another thing, and then boom, it just exploded. And then now this is something I'm super interested in, and I think it's a way for us to all live a happy life and actually truly live a happy life. And so that's the whole point here. And I've got tons of great feedback, and I really appreciate that. And I would love to get more. If you apply this some small thing to your daily lives, let me know, and I'd love to hear how it goes. So this episode, I'm going to go over what's your story. So what is your story? It's a good question, right? And what do I even mean by that? I don't mean like, how did you get to where you came to now? Well, kind of that's what it means, but I don't want to mean, I'll tell you what I mean. Let's get there. Let's get into it before I confuse my own self. Okay, so what's your story? We're going to talk about neuroplasticity real quick. And what that is your body or your brain's ability to form new neural connections. And we didn't know this to be true, or reorganize them, right? Reorganize these connections. So we didn't know this to be true back in the day. We thought, oh, you're dumb. You're going to go work at a manual labor job and just do the best you can in school, and you're always going to be kind of dumb. But we know that not to be true now. We can all learn. We can all get to where we want to get to. We can all create things. We can all learn to create art. Some of us aren't gifted with it. We can learn to create music. Some of us aren't gifted with it, but we can still learn to do it, right? The beliefs that we tell ourselves, right? How we can change them. And then our memory, how we can increase memory, how we can speed read and do all these crazy things that I didn't even know about. And there's tons of ways to learn and grow, and it's completely up to us to change it. So whatever we aren't liking in our lives, it is completely up to us to stop playing the victim and stop blaming our childhood or blaming our past or blaming someone else for where we are now. It is up to you to change it. 100%, end of story. If you want something, go get it. I'm a firm believer of that. So good habits and discipline, that kind of deals with that neuroplasticity thing. So it frees up mental space for you to keep learning and growing, right? And so anything that you want to change, you need to create a good habit around it and stay disciplined. That way you can create that habit. Discipline is a whole nother topic all on its own. I encourage you to look it up and hear some people that are actually really great with discipline and what they had to say about it. So Jocko Willink is one of those guys. If you look him up, his talks about discipline are great. But he's kind of got a different background, and because he's a war veteran, but that doesn't mean if you don't believe in war or whatever, I'm not going to get political, but that doesn't mean you can't take away things from him, or if you're just a free-loving hippie, that doesn't mean what he has to say isn't great information. And yeah, just check it out or just learn about discipline all on its own. But anyway, rant there. Creating good habits frees up mental space because once something is a habit, you don't need the energy to really do it anymore. You don't have to think about it anymore. You just naturally just go and you do it. So you can conserve energy in a way, and you open up your brain to learn more, to take on more. So whatever thing you want to learn, you have to create a habit out of it and then go learn something else. Or, there's a list of things you're taking on at once. So what I like to do is break down all the aspects of my life that I want to increase and pull one little piece away from each one and then create habits. And then again, I do something more or learn something more, create a new habit. Do it again, create a new habit, right? So back to what's your story. What I mean by that is, what are the beliefs that you hold to be true? How did you learn them? Are they correct? What are the stories you tell your inner dialogue, right? So your internal reality. What's going on in there? And that's projected out to your external environment. So whatever you internally think to be true about yourself, about the world, about life, is externally projected. And so you can think about how that could be good or bad. If you're super messed up in your head and you're in a relationship, see how that can maybe turn that relationship bad, or your work environment, right? If you have these confidence issues and you need to perform at your job, but you can't because this work environment thing, or sex, this could go into that too, right? If you were never taught how to do it, or it was this big taboo thing, or you've never actually taken the time to learn about it because you think you have all the knowledge, but have you actually stopped and take a step back and learned about it? And then maybe that's what's causing these confidence issues. Or if that's not you, maybe it's something else, right? Anything that you have any kind of issues with, what are the beliefs and stories that are behind that? And so before the age of 7, we're kind of ingrained with our internal hardware, if you want to call it that. Like, we are shaped so much within those years. And if you think about it, it's through your parents, it's through your teachers, so the education system you were in, your friends and your family, whatever external environment that you were learning from was super critical during those years. And you can imagine how many of us, myself included, probably didn't have the most optimal setup in all those different things, right? So maybe it was a broken family. Maybe it was a family who didn't talk about feelings. Maybe you came from a single parent home. Maybe you had some terrible friends who never lifted you up or never taught you anything, and you were always the black sheep. Or maybe you were the top friend, you were the coolest kid, and you were never pushed, and you never had to endure anything difficult, right? So there's nothing inherently wrong with going through all these things, as you can see, because if it was just perfect, then maybe you didn't learn this hard lesson that you know now. But what I'm saying is that we probably didn't go through this most optimal situation, meaning there's probably some issues that were established early on for a lot of us that we don't ever deal with, we never talk about, and they're just suppressed under for years. So if you have an overweight problem, guaranteed it probably comes from back then, or it comes from some issue that you're telling yourself, this story you created through your external environment. And it could be any type of, if you're overly stressed or anxious, or all these types of problems that people have, or you're always tired, or whatever it is, right? You got to think about where that stemmed from. And so you can imagine, like, if from age 7, if I'm told to believe this one thing, and that's the only way I think that the world works, and then I get into the world and that thing isn't even true for everyone else, imagine what that does to people. And imagine if you were brought up in that type of environment, right? Same thing with your friends, whatever they were telling you, or your teachers. If you think about that, so many of us get into these dead-end jobs that we hate, but we just end up doing so that we can make money to fund all of the things around that job, or our weekends, or our vacations, or we want to get away from our actual reality. Alcohol, drugs, all that type of stuff. And I'm not saying any of that's inherently bad. It's when it's to the extreme, when it becomes an addiction, right? But anyway, the whole point there is anybody with an addiction, or anybody with this problem that they want to change, that they've never been able to change, it all stems from something. And it's the story you're telling yourself. And it's you not dealing with it in some aspect. So if your beliefs are limited, then so are you. And that kind of goes into what I'm saying is, like, what you were taught. If it was a limited belief that didn't encourage you to grow and learn, then this thing starts to happen called downwiring. As you age, you start to downwire. I'm going to get into that in a second, but just be aware of your default settings and how you react to things, especially if it's a negative thing, and start trying to think about that more. And when you find yourself reacting negatively, take a step back and write it down, and then start doing some digging within yourselves and figure out why you do that thing. But okay, downwiring versus upwiring. This is an awesome topic that I never really even thought about, but it's always kind of been in my head. So why, especially in the United States, do we go to school, we graduate, and then we got to get into this job immediately because we got to pay back that school, and then we got to, or some of us do, some of us don't. But we get into these dead-end jobs, right? If you weren't set up for success before that, because you think you just need to make money, and then you end up doing that for 10 years, and then you get stuck doing something you don't really like, and then it goes on to this next thing you don't like too much that doesn't fulfill you, or you don't have the passion for it, or you get into this relationship because you're dependent on other people to fulfill your happiness, and because you were taught that for some reason, and you never asked the question why. And so you get into these dead-end relationships, or these jobs, or within yourself, you don't like your own self, right? And all these are massive problems in this country, but we end up downwiring, right? So as we age, we stop learning. We settle because we're scared to work on it. We're scared to ask ourselves these questions. And we play the victim card, right? So we say, well, I had this bad childhood. My dad hated me, and so this is why I am the way I am, and this is how I am. Accept me or not. I don't accept that. I think that you can change that 100%. It is completely up to you to change how you are. If you had a bad childhood, it's up to you to deal with it, to face it, and to get over it. And it's hard. It's hard work, 100%, but you can't have fear of that hard work. And we're going to talk about fear in a whole nother topic, a whole nother video, because that's a big animal all on its own. But if you're just blaming and playing victim, then you're scared of something and you're not dealing with it. You're not dealing with that fear. You're never going to overcome all your fear, ever. Fear is just a warning, but you can work with it. You can learn to perfect it, and it's just by working in some aspect. And so the reason downwiring happens is it conserves energy. So as you get older, you have less energy. And if you stop needing to think, if you just go home and sit in front of a TV every night, and that's your thing, you sit on weekends and you do nothing, you don't learn more, you don't engage, you don't create, you're not alive, you're not out in nature, you're not experiencing the world, you're not living in the moment because maybe you're waiting to retire, or you're waiting for that vacation to do it, or you're waiting for death even. Downwiring is a huge thing, and it's a problem to me. So if you think about elders, like in these stories, like Native American elders or whatever, they're these awesome people, these awesome figures that we look up to, and they have so much knowledge to tell you, and they're happy, and they understand so much culture or whatever. If you think elders versus just old people, there's probably a difference. And old people, they probably started downwiring, and they're not someone that has taught you anything, or that they stop learning themselves. I think you understand what I'm saying. Versus upwiring, right? So if you're upwiring, you stay learning, you stay engaged, you stay seeking knowledge, you try to increase your relationships, you try to increase your sex life, you try to increase your career because you want to find the passion. You don't want to just do it for the money. Or you try to increase the knowledge on yourself. You try to gain experiences within yourself. Throughout your lifetime, it's always fluid. You never settle. You always gain more knowledge. And that doesn't mean that you can never be happy by seeking new knowledge. That means you're just on a journey and you're walking down that path. You're in the forest versus the map, and you're just going. So, and I could keep talking about that forever, but takeaway points: set optimistic beliefs for yourself, meditate, calm your mind, journal things, deal with them, listen, and don't reply to people in your head. Listen to them first, and then find a coach or someone to talk to, or look at the internet. It's got a ton of great knowledge, podcasts, YouTube. Check it out. Thanks, guys.